I had just dropped onto the couch, shoes kicked off, remote in hand, when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced down. It was Rachel. I just stared at the screen for a second. We hadn't really talked much in weeks, not real conversation anyway, just surface-level stuff about bills or the dog. She'd been cold, distant. I figured she needed space, maybe work stress. But this? A call at 8:30 on a Thursday night? I hesitated, thumb hovering over the answer button. When I finally picked up, her voice was flat. No emotion, no hesitation. "Jake, I'm filing for divorce." I sat up straight. "Wait, what?" "I've already started the paperwork," she said. "My lawyer will be in touch. Going forward, all communication needs to go through him." "What the hell are you talking about, Rachel?" "I'm not discussing this further," she said. "You'll get the documents soon." Then she hung up. Just like that. No fight, no warning. "Quick note, before we keep going, tell me which country you're watching from." I stared at the phone in my hand like it was about to explode. The screen still glowed with her name. My chest tightened. What the hell just happened? I called her back. Straight to voicemail, tried again. Same thing. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment thing. Rachel had planned this. That much was obvious. The way she talked, like it was a business transaction. Cold, rehearsed. No anger, no sadness, just done. And a lawyer already? Who does that, unless they've been planning it for weeks? I stood up and started pacing. My brain was racing through every moment from the past few months. The late nights, the sudden business trips, the locked phone. I thought we were just in a rough patch. But Rachel? She was halfway out the door while I was still trying to fix things. I walked into the kitchen, grabbed a beer, and leaned on the counter. The betrayal hit hard. She didn't even give me a chance. No explanation, no closure, just paperwork and silence. But then something clicked. If she's been this calculated, what else has she been hiding? Why the lawyer now? Why so urgent, so final? I took one more look at my phone. Her name still sat there in the call log, like a punch to the gut. Something was off. This wasn't just a divorce. I needed to find out what the hell was really going on. The next morning, I barely touched my coffee before I pulled up the number Rachel left in her voicemail and called it. "Law offices of Gregory Anderson," a woman answered. "I need to set a meeting. I'm Jake Carlson. My wife, Rachel Carlson, told me I'd be hearing from her attorney." One moment. A click, then hold music. 2 minutes later, she was back. "Mr. Anderson has availability at 3 this afternoon. Will that work?" "Yeah, I'll be there." I hung up and stared at the wall for a solid 10 minutes before finally getting up to shower. By the time I pulled into the parking lot of Anderson and Lowry, I'd gone through every possible reason Rachel would go nuclear like this. Nothing added up. The building looked like something out of a magazine. Glass and brick, trimmed hedges, no sign of wear. Inside, it smelled like polished wood and expensive cologne. The kind of place you pay way too much per hour to be lied to nicely. The receptionist, blonde and robotic, didn't even look up from her screen. "You can go right in. End of the hall, left side." I walked in and found Mr. Gregory Anderson standing behind a glass desk. His suit probably worth more than my truck. Tall, maybe mid-50s, perfect haircut. He had that practice smile lawyers use when they think they're smarter than you. "Jake, good to meet you. Please, have a seat." His handshake was firm, deliberate. I sat across from him, still trying to get a read on the guy. He opened a thick folder and slid it toward me. "Rachel has filed for dissolution of marriage citing irreconcilable differences. These are the proposed terms. I recommend you review and sign today so we can keep this simple." I flipped through it, not really reading it first, just scanning. Property split, no alimony. She keeps the house, I keep the cabin. No debt division since it was all separate. I knew damn well that wasn't true. "You want me to just sign this right now?" I asked. Mr. Anderson nodded, steepling his fingers like a politician. "It's straightforward, Jake. The cleaner the break, the faster you both move on." Something about the way he said it didn't sit right. It felt rehearsed, too polished. I looked at him a little longer. He wasn't making direct eye contact anymore. His fingers tapped once, then stopped. A little twitch in his jaw. That cool, unbothered persona? It was a cover. "You sure this is everything?" I asked. "No hidden clauses? No fine print I should worry about?" He gave a tight smile. "Jake, we're professionals. Rachel wanted to avoid drama. You get your assets, she gets hers. This is the cleanest outcome for everyone. But now he was shifting in his chair just slightly. His voice had dropped half a register. "You seem nervous," I said. His eyes flicked up to mine. "Excuse me?" "I said you seem nervous. You keep adjusting your chair. That tapping thing you're doing with your fingers. That happen every time a guy doesn't sign immediately." "I assure you I'm not nervous." "Right." And Rachel just wanted to avoid drama. I pushed the folder back across the desk. "I'm not signing anything today. I'll take it home, read it properly." Anderson nodded slowly. "That's your right, of course." I stood, grabbed the folder, and headed for the door. But before I stepped out, I glanced back. His face was blank, but his knuckles were white on the edge of his desk. Something was definitely off. This wasn't just a divorce. This was a setup. I barely made it out of the parking lot before I called Mark. He picked up on the second ring. "What's up?" "I need your help," I said. "Rachel's lawyer gave me divorce papers today. Something about it feels wrong." There was a pause. "You serious?" "Dead serious. She already has everything drafted. She's cold as hell on the phone. And this guy Anderson, sketchy as hell. Won't make eye contact, keeps fidgeting. The whole thing stinks." "Say no more," Mark said. "What do you want me to do?" "Start digging. Anything you can find on Rachel. Recent spending, her schedule, weird behavior. I'm gonna look through our finances and emails. She's hiding something, man." "You got it. I'll start with her car." I hung up and drove straight home. The second I got inside, I pulled my laptop from the kitchen drawer and logged into our joint account. We didn't share everything. Rachel had her own credit card, but we had one shared card for bigger purchases, emergencies, or travel. She never used it unless she had to. But 2 weeks ago, there it was. A charge at the Whitehaven Hotel in downtown Dallas. 4 nights, 1 king suite. I felt my stomach twist. She didn't go on any trip. She told me she was at a work seminar in Houston. This place was local, like 20 minutes from our house. Who books a king suite downtown when they live in the suburbs unless they're hiding something? I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of the charge. Then I went deeper, looking for other clues. Nothing obvious. A few Uber charges around the same time. Some random purchases at designer stores she'd never mentioned. This wasn't just someone planning a divorce. This was someone getting her ducks in a row, hiding money, hiding time, hiding lies. I checked her emails. Nothing weird. She must have been using another account. My phone buzzed. Text from Mark. "Found something big. Call me." I hit call immediately. "What did you find?" "I popped the glove box," he said. "Bingo. Got something that doesn't belong to her or you." "What is it?" "You need to see it yourself. Meet me at the old Target lot off Highway 9. 10 minutes. "On my way." I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Heart was pounding. Rachel had always been secretive about her money, sure, but this was different. This wasn't just secret bank accounts or credit cards. This was full-on deception. A hotel room, a shady lawyer. Now Mark had something from her car that didn't belong. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever this was, it ran deeper than an affair. Something told me Rachel hadn't just fallen out of love. She was covering tracks, and I was finally about to find out what the hell she was covering. I pulled into the Target parking lot and spotted Mark's truck parked in the far corner. I parked beside him, stepped out, and before I could say a word, he reached into his hoodie pocket and handed me a small black key fob. "What the hell is this?" I asked. "I found it stuffed behind the registration in her glove box," he said. "It's a storage unit key, one of those high-security ones. You know, biometric access, digital lock, the whole deal." I turned it over in my hand. No markings, no labels. Just a smooth, unassuming piece of plastic. "She never mentioned renting storage," I said. "We've got a garage full of crap and a whole attic that's empty." Mark looked at me. "Exactly. Why pay for storage when you've got space? Unless you don't want anyone else to see what's inside." I didn't say anything for a second. I just stared at the fob like it might explain itself. Mark leaned against his truck. "Look, man, I'm not saying this is going to give you every answer, but this isn't just some midlife crisis. She's hiding something big." "Let's go," I said. "Let's see what the hell she's keeping from me." He nodded, got in his truck, and followed me as I pulled back onto the road. 20 minutes later, we pulled into a gated facility with razor wire and keycard access. The sign read, "Store Secure, Premium Private Storage." The lobby was all glass and brushed steel. I walked up to the counter and held up the fob. "I believe this matches one of your units." The woman behind the desk gave me a once-over, took the fob, scanned it, then looked at her screen. "Unit 307, straight down the hall, take the elevator to the 3rd floor, then left. Door will unlock with the fob." She handed it back without a second glance. We made our way through the place in silence. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. My boots echoed off the polished concrete floor. Inside the elevator, I could feel my pulse in my throat. "You good?" Mark asked. "Not even close." We reached the 3rd floor, stepped into a corridor lined with steel doors. Left turn, 3rd door down, 307. There it was. I stared at the digital lock. No keypad. Just a small scanner, shaped perfectly for the fob in my hand. "Whatever's in there," I muttered. She never wanted me to find it. I swiped the fob. The light turned green. Lock clicked. Mark stepped back. "You ready?" I took a breath, pushed the door open, and froze. The door swung open, and I just stood there. Boxes, dozens of them, all stacked neatly, labeled with names I didn't recognize. No dust, no cobwebs. Someone had been in here recently. Mark stepped in behind me. "She's been busy." I walked to the closest stack and ripped the top box open. Inside were bundles of $100 bills, tight and clean, wrapped in rubber bands. I blinked hard, reached in. The weight was real. This wasn't some prop stash. This was hundreds of thousands. Easy. "What the hell?" Mark crouched beside another box and cracked it open. "Jake." I turned and looked over his shoulder. This one was full of folders, printed spreadsheets, transaction logs, shipping forms, bank transfers, some in English, some not. Most of it looked legit at first glance, until you realized the companies didn't exist. He handed me one of the ledgers. My hands shook as I flipped through. Then I saw it. Rachel M. Carlson, listed as consultant on a fake financial services contract for a shell company based out of Belize. Another document, same name. This time under founding partner. The routing number linked to an offshore account I'd never heard of. "Son of a bitch," I muttered. Mark kept digging. "This is straight up laundering. These clients, fake. Or maybe real people she's been skimming from. Either way, it's dirty money." I sat back on my heels, the weight of it all slamming into me. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't about love, or even me. Rachel had been running something under the table, big, serious, illegal, and I'd been sleeping next to her every night like a damn idiot. Mark pulled out another binder, flipping it open. "Check this out. Here's a client name flagged next to adjusted withdrawal totals. Looks like she's cooking the books." I leaned in and saw it. 3 separate entries with different amounts, all under the same invoice number. That wasn't sloppy. That was calculated. And at the bottom of the sheet, almost like an afterthought, there it was. Anderson, G.L. Legal consult retainer. I stared at it for a second too long. "That's the lawyer," I said, jaw clenched. "That's why he was sweating in his chair. He's not just representing her, he's in on it." Mark whistled low. "She's not just screwing you over, man. She's trying to dump you before this thing blows up." My pulse was hammering in my ears. I looked around at the cash, the papers, the cold, clinical organization of it all. Rachel hadn't just betrayed our marriage. She'd built an entire criminal setup right under my nose. And now, she was trying to cut me out before it came crashing down. No chance. She wanted clean separation? She was about to get the dirtiest fallout of her life. I stood in that storage unit, surrounded by dirty money and fake companies, and it finally hit me. Rachel wasn't just ending a marriage. She was erasing me, cutting me loose before the house of cards fell. But if she thought I was going to roll over and sign my name to her clean exit, she didn't know me at all. I pulled out my phone and started taking photos, box by box, doc by doc, close-ups of the cash bundles, clear shots of the offshore account spreadsheets. I flipped through the ledgers, snapping each page and making sure names and numbers were legible. "Back it all up to the cloud," Mark said, standing by the door, watching the hallway. "You don't want this living in just one place." "Already doing it," I muttered, uploading as I went. Every angle, every detail. If this turns into a legal mess, I've got the receipts. After 20 minutes, we had it all. I tucked the fob into my jacket and pulled the door shut. The lock clicked behind us. Back in the truck, I looked over at Mark. We need to talk strategy. He nodded. You gonna confront her? Hell no, not yet. She thinks I'm clueless, and I'm gonna let her keep thinking that. Play dumb, he said. Smart. She wants me to sign the papers? Fine. I'll act like I'm caving. Meanwhile, I'll keep gathering everything she doesn't want found. Mark leaned back in his seat, thinking. And Anderson? That's the key, I said. He's involved, but he's not loyal. He's scared. We use that. Let him think the divorce is moving forward. Keep him relaxed. If he slips, we document it. Mark smirked. So we bait her with progress, stretch out the timeline, and squeeze both of them from the inside. Exactly. I pulled out my phone and opened the document scans. We track every meeting, every email, every phone call. I'll set up a new email to communicate with Anderson. Everything will be logged. And if she catches on? She won't, I said. Rachel's smart, but she's cocky. She thinks I'm a loser who won't fight. That's how she's played this so far. Mark cracked his knuckles. All right then, we go slow, controlled. You're a dumb husband just trying to be cooperative, and she's already counting her payout. I gave a humorless laugh. She has no idea the payout's coming in handcuffs. We sat there for a second, both silent. Then I opened the last set of photos on my phone, Rachel's signature on that bogus contract. Offshore wire transfers with her name tied to phony corporations. Anderson's retainer fees buried in money laundering paperwork. Every piece was another nail. I'll give her just enough to think she's in the clear, I said. She's going to walk straight into this with a smile on her face. Mark looked over. So, when's the next meeting with Anderson? I'll call him tomorrow. Tell him I'm ready to sign. Mark grinned. Let the show begin. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen like nothing had changed. Rachel was at the counter, scrolling her phone, sipping her usual green smoothie. She looked up, gave me a nod, no smile. Morning. Hey. I grabbed a mug, poured some coffee, and leaned against the fridge like we hadn't just crossed into open warfare. She didn't ask where I'd been last night, didn't ask about the lawyer. She thought I was broken, compliant, drifting toward the exit. Good. I stirred my coffee and kept my face still. Inside, I was boiling. I gave it a few hours, then called Anderson from my truck. Mr. Carlson, he answered, smoother than usual. I'm ready to move forward, I said. Let's get it over with. A short pause. I pictured him wiping sweat off his temple. Glad to hear that. We can schedule final signing this Friday. Will that work? Fine. I'll prepare everything. We hung up. That was the last piece. That night, I met Mark in his garage. His whiteboard was covered in notes, photos, timeline breakdowns. This is everything, he said, pointing to a flash drive. Photos, scanned documents, metadata, even the timestamps from your cloud uploads. What about the lawyer connection? I asked. He tapped another folder. His name shows up in 5 financial documents. That's more than enough to draw suspicion. And Rachel? She's toast. Once the feds see her name tied to those offshore accounts, it's game over. I looked at the manila envelope on the workbench. Copies of everything, all laid out in clean order. No fluff, just facts. She still thinks I'm just a sad husband signing his way out of her life, I said. Mark smirked. Let her keep thinking that. I took the envelope, sealed it shut, and tucked it into my glove box. The next few days were all performance. I made dinner, I folded laundry, I kept conversation light, short. Rachel didn't press. She just moved through the house like we were already divorced. She was already halfway gone, probably dreaming of a beach somewhere, counting dirty money in her head. By Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling while she snored 3 feet away. Tomorrow was the day. I thought I'd be nervous, but all I felt was pressure, tight and sharp in my chest. I wasn't scared, I was ready. Friday morning, I texted Mark. We're on. 11 a.m., Anderson's office. He replied instantly, copy, sending the file. One last detail. Everything had to hit at the exact moment. I dressed in silence, walked out without saying goodbye, and drove to Anderson's office with the manila envelope in my passenger seat. My hand rested on it the whole ride there. Let them smile. Let them think it's over. They had no idea what was coming. I walked through the glass doors of Anderson's office with the envelope tucked tight under my arm. My jaw was locked, my steps steady. Rachel was already seated in the conference room, legs crossed, hands folded in her lap, like this was just another Thursday. She looked up when I walked in, barely blinked, Anderson stood as I entered, plastered on that thin smile of his. "Mr. Carlson, glad you could make it." I didn't answer, just pulled out the chair and sat across from them. Rachel gave me a soft nod, like we were co-workers finalizing a project. Anderson laid out the folder, slid the papers in front of me. "These are the finalized terms, as discussed. Clean division, no contest, no drama." Rachel glanced at me, lips twitching upward. Her eyes had that shine, like she could already taste the freedom. I looked down at the pen he placed beside the documents, picked it up slowly, clicked it once. No one said a word. I signed the first page. My name, clear and controlled, moved to the second. Rachel relaxed. Her shoulders dropped, her chin lifted slightly. Anderson leaned back, smug satisfaction written all over his face. They thought it was over. I paused at the third page, mid-signature, reached into my jacket, pulled out the manila envelope. Without a word, I slid it across the table toward Rachel. She stared at it, confused. Her fingers hovered over the flap. "What's this?" she asked. I didn't answer. She opened it. At first, she flipped through slowly, then faster. Her fingers shook by the third photo. Her face drained to white. She looked up at me, eyes wide. Anderson leaned in to peek over her shoulder. "What the hell is this?" he asked. His voice cracked halfway through the sentence. "Everything," I said. "The cash, the fake companies, the offshore accounts, her name, your name. It's all in there." Rachel shoved the envelope back toward me. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about." Anderson stood up fast, hands flat on the table. "Jake, this is highly inappropriate." I cut him off. "Save it. A second copy was already sent to the FBI this morning. Yours is just a courtesy." Anderson froze. His lips parted, but nothing came out. Rachel's jaw clenched. "You've ruined everything." "No," I said. "You did that yourself." I stood, pushed the chair in, took one last look at both of them. Rachel was shaking now, not angry, terrified. Anderson just looked sick. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't give them the satisfaction of another word. I walked out the door, calm and steady. One step ahead. I was halfway across the lobby when the elevator dinged behind me. Two guys in suits stepped out, moving with that no-nonsense pace you don't mistake. They didn't ask the receptionist for directions. They already knew exactly where to go. I pushed open the glass doors and stepped out into the sunlight. Didn't even look back, but I didn't need to. A minute later, the shouting started. Through the glass, I saw Rachel shoot up from her chair. One agent moved to her, already pulling cuffs from his belt. The other turned to Anderson, badge out. Rachel backed away, hands up, lips moving fast, but no sound came through the thick walls. Then I heard it, muffled but clear enough. "Rachel Carlson, you are under arrest for money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to defraud financial institutions." Her knees buckled. Anderson reached across the table like he was gonna do something. Maybe object, maybe stall. The second agent moved fast, arm out, voice firm. "Sit down, Mr. Anderson. You're coming too." The door slammed behind them as both agents took control of the room. Rachel was stunned, frozen. The Rachel I knew, sharp-tongued, always in control, was gone. She didn't even resist. Anderson? His face had completely drained. I'd never seen a man go from smug to scared so fast. I stood on the curb, hands in my pockets, watching the reflection of their fall play out in the office window. It should have felt good, and part of it did. But mostly, it felt surreal, like the final act of a nightmare I didn't see coming until it was already burning. They were the ones in cuffs, but I was the one who had to live with all of it, all the lies, the years wasted. But she made her choice. She wanted to cut me out, bury me before it all blew up. Now she was the one buried, and I was finally free.